So this is being called the Flower Massacre. What happened is that food came in, driven in by the Israelis into Gaza. And again, this doesn't even begin to cover the basic needs of the people in Gaza. But nevertheless, this is what happened. They were driving in these trucks, and then when people started rushing towards the trucks, which is understandable given that they're being starved to death in a genocide, the Israelis began opening fire at them. They killed over 100 people and wounded 750 people. I mean, if this had happened in Europe, if this had happened in Paris, if this had happened in Berlin, what kind of reaction do you think that would elicit? 750 people wounded, over 100 killed. I mean, it's a massacre, and it's just one of many massacres. Almost every single day you're having things like this happen. Maybe not on the same scale, but certainly hundreds being killed every day in the most horrific fashion. And someone in this Flower Massacre, it's called Flower because they were rushing just to get flour, because people are eating animal feed in Gaza. I did an hour-long video on that in the last live stream. That one person was crushed with a tank, and I'm not going to show you the photos because it's so bad, but they were, I mean, what can I say? What can I say after these things? So even the BBC came out and debunked what the Israelis were doing. Even CNN. This massacre was so bad, even the mainstream media couldn't cover for the Israelis. And I say that with a small disclaimer, because if you look at the headlines, if you look at the language that they're using, they're still covering for them. This headline from the BBC, for example, which says, "What video and eyewitness accounts tell us about Gazans killed at aid drop?" This is extremely, I mean, it sounds so scientific, and I mean, I wouldn't have written that like this. If Palestinians had done that to Israelis, I bet you anything you like, this headline would be different. It should say, hundreds of people wounded, over 100 massacred by Israeli forces. That is the simple headline. And then, of course, inside you can explain to us the how you arrived at this conclusion, but and show us the forensic evidence. But this is too tame. This is far too tame. Gazans killed at aid drop. What does that mean? Did a box of cornflakes fall on 5 people and kill them? Were they all electrocuted? Did lightning strike? Did someone have bubonic plague? They all had heart failure at the same time. What does that mean, Gazans, killed at aid drop? How were they killed? Who killed them? How many were killed? This is too tame for me. This is not good enough. So they're still covering for Israel. Make no mistake, they're still covering for them. Now they have this drone footage. They had this drone footage which was published by the Israelis, and what the Israelis did basically is they told on themselves. By releasing this, people who know what they're talking about when they look at drone footage were able to see immediately that this has been edited. It's been played with. It's been doctored. So you can see here, if you look at some of the screenshots that the BBC provide us with here, they say these people in red are motionless people on the ground, okay, that have been executed, that have been killed by the Israelis. And it's just the beginning. It's just the beginning. The IDF, the Israelis won't release the full footage, okay? And then here, if you look at the the video released by the IDF is not one single sequence. It has been edited into 4 sections. So basically, the Israelis have cut out important parts from the video where you don't see the people being massacred, but you see them afterwards as they're lying motionless on the ground. Because when someone's looking at that, it's more difficult to understand. I mean, just looking at this footage, if they hadn't put any circles or a legend on it, it's difficult to know what's going on, right? But when you can see the tracer rounds being used, tracer rounds light up in the dark, the infrared camera might pick that up. The satellite imagery might pick that up. The drone footage might show that. And then, of course, you would see people who are moving then suddenly become motionless. It becomes much, much easier to see what's going on. But the Israelis think that by releasing a few bits that they can kind of, you know, show, oh, look, we're being transparent. We're showing you what happened. We didn't do anything wrong. You should see the disaster on CNN. Look at this interview, how Amanpour catches him in a lie and he doesn't know how to get out of it.
I think the first question, if you could answer, is who were these aid, who was this aid being driven in by or for? The UN and the normal, you know, known aid agencies said that they had nothing to do with it. Do you know who it was?
I know the following, that in order to help alleviate the food shortage in Gaza, that we authorized in a convoy of, I think, some 30 trucks entered Gaza last night, headed for the northern Gaza Strip. And this shows that Israel is interested in seeing aid and foodstuffs reach the civilian population. Unfortunately, we saw a situation where there was a mass casualty tragedy, where it looked like the civilians were storming the trucks.
A mass casualty tragedy. What kind of fucked up English is that? You mean a massacre?
Trying to take the food out of desperation. And people, a crowd was pushing and shoving and people were killed. I can't tell you the exact numbers. I don't, as you know, don't trust the numbers put out by the Hamas-controlled Ministry of Health in Gaza. There were reports that maybe the drivers were driving over parts of the crowd. It appears to be.
Oh, well, you know, you don't trust the Hamas numbers. That's excellent, right? Because you have your own drone footage, which we're looking at on the screen. So why don't you count them for us then, if you don't trust the Hamas ministry, right? I mean, I think we can all agree that that's the easiest solution, right? You don't trust them, then count it for us, would you? Or just give us the video. I'll count it myself.
Be a tragedy, but I can tell you Israel was not involved directly in any way.
When you say not involved directly in any way, what do you mean? I mean, you enabled this convoy, as you said, and your forces are there on the ground and open fire. They said it themselves. What does that mean, not involved in any way?
So this was, we allowed the aid to come in. We are involved that way. That's our policy, to allow food to go into Gaza for the civilian population. But in the incident of people storming the trucks and the way the truck drivers behaved.
What a lie. Number one, your policy is actually not to allow food into Gaza, because I have your defense minister on camera saying that on October 7th. No food, no fuel, no electricity, no water. That is your policy. When you look, man, when you put someone into a concentration camp and then you throw a few crumbs at them, that doesn't mean that you have stopped starving them. You're still starving them. You just happen to give them a few crumbs, but you're still starving them. That is your policy.
And people getting squashed and pressed, and apparently there being mass casualties. Israel was not there on the ground.
This guy lies worse than some children. Like, there are some children that know how to lie better than this. And you have to remember, this guy is not just an Israeli spokesperson or one of their spokespersons. He's supposed to be a special advisor to Netanyahu. And yes, some of you correctly pointed out in the comment section, which I've said to you before as well, that he has an Aussie accent. Once again, do you understand what we talk about when we say settler colonialism? You've got, I mean, Australia itself is a settler colony, but when you have people that are coming from all over the place, and every single Israeli spokesperson you listen to, including in French, right? I can tell in French from the accent, this guy's from France. He grew up in France. He's French. He's French Jewish, but calling himself Israeli, as if he comes from Palestine. Same thing with these guys. You've got a Scottish one who goes on Sky News often, Scottish accent, you know, obviously grown up in Scotland. You've got another one who's from London, this fart called Levy, and then this is Mark, the Australian one. Every single one of them has a Western Anglo accent, because they're from Anglo-European, Anglo-American countries. They're not from Palestine.
Okay, but they...
I love her voice. Let me rewind just a few seconds.
Incident of people storming the trucks and the way the truck drivers behaved, and people getting squashed and pressed, and apparently there being mass casualties. Israel was not there on the ground.
Okay, but they did open fire and people...
I swear to God, he sounds South African for a second. Maybe I might have gotten it wrong. Maybe he's South African. I've always thought he's Australian for some reason. In any case, it's the same thing. We go back to the same... another settler colony, another Anglo settler colony. I think I'm picking up South African in there.
the aid to come in. We are involved that way. That's our policy, to allow food to go into Gaza for the civilian population. But in the incident of people storming the trucks and the way the truck drivers behaved, and people getting squashed and pressed, and apparently there being mass casualties, Israel was not there on the ground.
Okay, but they did open fire and people were killed. So I'm completely confused by what you're saying, because they admitted, the IDF spokesman said it on our air, that they opened fire.
That's a separate incident.
Okay.
Not connected to the tragedy with the trucks. That was different place, different time.
I mean, he's definitely Australian. Yeah, he's definitely Australian. But what the hell's going on? I mean, he lies so badly. A separate incident. Well, enlighten us, to Mark. When did that happen? It's so horrible. It's so horrible. Really, it's like you're not only dealing with the atrocity itself of this crime happening. It's like they go and then start lying on top of it and putting more lies on top of lies. It's so much energy. They put in so much energy into the propaganda. It's really something. There are some videos here that I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to show you, because, I mean, first of all, they're already heavily censored, which is a good thing, I suppose. But YouTube is obviously going to give me trouble, so I'm not going to show them to you. Again, this is another way that YouTube stops me from doing my job. I'll show you what the... I mean, this is really funny from the Germans, what they put out. They put out this statement here. It's actually two. Let me get you the second half. Yeah. So they said here, they say that people sought food for their families and were killed. I am shaken by the reports from Gaza. Shaken. Okay. The Israeli army must fully investigate the incident and how the mass panic and shootings occurred. My sympathies are with the families of the victims. Yes, I'm sure they are. In Gaza, people are closer to death than to life. More humanitarian aid must get in immediately. A humanitarian pause is more urgent than ever, so the hostages can finally be freed from Hamas. The dying in Gaza stops, and I think she means the killing in Gaza. Were they so desperate to remove the word killing and say the dying in Gaza stops? No, it's a genocide, and aid can be distributed safely. I mean, there's so much wrong with this, because first of all, Germany can fuck off, honestly, when anything is concerned, okay? They can go to hell. And they're in the number 2 country, the number 2 exporter of weapons to the Israelis in this genocide, right? They made at least $300 million, euros, from the last weapon sale, and it's probably higher than that. These are just the ones they've disclosed. So after the United States, the Germans, who are supposed to be a neutral country, and then of course removed this, when Ukraine started, and even then they were lying. They were sending weapons to Saudi Arabia to use against Yemen before that. But anyway, this supposedly neutral country that never again is doing again and again. Oh yeah. Germany should have been dissolved, honestly. I mean, just they are truly a menace to humanity. I really, everything bad comes out of Germany. Rothschild, Henry Kissinger, you name it, the Nazis, you name it. Everything bad comes out of Germany. We should have dissolved it after World War II. Really, I mean, enough. 2 world wars, enough. And then on top of that, they go back to the same old behavior. They want to export weapons. They want to kill people. They want to commit genocide. Never mind what happened in Namibia. You guys know, of course, what happened in Namibia. This is right before World War I. That's another genocide that they colonized Namibia. They used to call it Southwest Africa. And I mean, just really scandalous. And then they have the nerve to talk about like they give a crap. Even when they're pretending to give a crap, they still have to put in this thing with Hamas and the hostages. Like, somehow this could all stop if you would just release the hostages. Well, I'm glad you see it that way. Because I can also, I submit the same thing to you. This could all stop if you would release the Palestinians that you took hostage. Because if you look at this chronologically, who took hostages first? It's the Israelis. The Israelis kidnapped all these Palestinians and put them in prison. And for years and years and years and years, no one would do anything about it. No one would get them released. No one would listen to their pleas. No one would allow the Red Cross to come and look at them. They just threw them in dungeons. And then now when October 7th happens and some Israelis get taken hostage, and by the way, they treated, immensely better, you're acting like this is the root of the conflict. So please go to hell. This is what it looked like when the Israelis massacred all these people during the Flower Massacre. You had people on the beach huddled with, basically around fires, waiting for food to come in.
هذا يا معلم بس مباشر عن شارع الرشيد. هذا كله اللي انت شايفه نار يا حاج. هذا كله ايش مولعين نار ايوم هيك وبستنوا المساعدات تدخل. طبعا ايش اقول لك الاف مؤلفة يا مولانا. هذا يا معلم. So here's another. This is a good tweet from Elijah, who said that this is the U.S. Quote-unquote balance. The United States dropped the cargo of three cargo planes worth of humanitarian aid on Gaza. Not one truck, and 230 planes of ammunition to Israel. Never forget the Israeli Flower Massacre. I'll go more into detail now about these trucks and the aid deliveries and what a sham it is. But nevertheless, if you look at Wikipedia, how they're titling this Flower Massacre that just happened, I mean, it's again another scandal. They call it the Al-Rashid humanitarian aid incident. What does that mean, the humanitarian aid incident? People were delivering aid and then they suddenly transformed into dolphins. Suddenly no one had clothes on anymore. They were, a black hole appeared and swallowed them up. What does that mean, incident? What incident? Someone was sick. Someone had to go to the doctor. An incident is vague. I'm sorry, this is too vague for me. You see how they always exaggerate as much as possible when they're trying to talk about Israelis, being victims and usually it's not even true, right? But then when it comes to Palestinians, and it's documented, it's filmed, it's recorded, there are eyewitness accounts, literally everything, right, is presentable as foolproof evidence. They then come and say, well, it was an incident. So, there was a space-time incident. A black hole appeared. Something happened. There was an incident. The trucks just broke down. I don't know. Something happened. An incident. They're really scandalous. They're truly scandalous, honestly. Here's a statement from someone. From one witness who says, "We went to get flour. The Israeli army shot at us. There are many martyrs on the ground, and until this moment, we are withdrawing them. There is no first aid." So the Israelis, what they love to do is they'll basically go into Gaza. They'll go into Jenin or Nablus. They'll shoot up people, and then when the ambulances try to get the wounded and pick them up, they'll block the ambulances. And I've shown you videos of this. It's been documented a million times since before I was even born. And this is a common Israeli practice to block ambulances. So it's not only that they're murdering people, is that they're making life as difficult as possible for health workers to actually reach the wounded. So here you can see how how bad this quote unquote incident, as they're calling it, was incident. So you see how they're evacuated. They don't even have ambulances to do it.
رحنا نجيب أكل وطحين نزلوا طخ فينا وارتمينا بالشوارع ما حد دور علينا خلص والناس جابتني هان في شهداء مرميين ما حدش مدور عليهم بدهم اسعافات فيش اسعافات فيش حد يسعفهم وفي مصابين والشفا ملانه شهداء واصابات فيش حد يسعفهم جابون هنا كمان عدوان من قلة فيش حد يسعفنا.
It's horrible. It's horrible. This reminds me of that incident, that famous incident where you had these three boys on the beach in Gaza who were playing football, and then the Israelis from a gunboat, they just, randomly fired on them and murdered them just for fun. I don't know why. It makes me think of that. Here, this is another man.
بيلعبوا فينا بالصنفار مرة بيقولون بيلعبوا فينا بالصنفار مرة بيقولون الطعيم بيجي العصر مرة المغرب اليوم نمنا زي الناس في الليل عادة الناس قالوا الطعيم اجى فالآليات العسكرية الإسرائيلية قربت على المساعدات ضبطت الأقدار على المواطنين على العازلين على الأبرياء على الذين يأتون من أجل لقمة العيش لأبنائهم قلت له بالشهر الله يا عمي بدي رخيف والله شحت وترجيت رجا يا عالم يكفي يا عالم احنا كالاحياء كالاموات نقول للعرب سلاحكم اين طائراتكم اين هي ليس للدفاع عن الشعب الفلسطيني ما تسمى دي امي ما تسمى دي خالتي ابن استشهد اثنين ما تسمى ولا بنت خانونس مستشهد مرميه بيلعبوا فينا.
I really don't know what to say. I mean, every single time I see one of these videos, the frustration, the anger, the desperation, all I can think is fuck the West, fuck Israel, fuck all these so-called Arab kingdoms that are just Western puppet states created by the West, literally drawn on a fucking map by the West, so they can control oil and the trade routes. Just fuck them from A to Z, from top to bottom, from front to backwards. Fuck all of these people. They're truly the scum of the earth. The scum of the earth. There is no worse, there are no worse human beings than them in today and in all of history. There are none, simply none. I did a 1 hour expose the other day of how people are starving in Gaza, eating animal food. Would you eat animal food? Would you eat animal food? What do you think an Israeli would say if they were forced to eat animal food? Would they eat cat food? Would you eat your dog's food? Think of how not just unsanitary that is, and unhealthy, but how degrading that is. That you're supposed to take, horse and donkey food and try and grind that up and make bread out of that. I'm sorry. Fuck Israel. Fuck everything to do with Israel. Fuck Zionism. If you're Zionism, fuck you too. If your family are Zionist, fuck them too. If your friends are Zionist, fuck them too. If your colleagues in your workplace are Zionist, guess what? Fuck them too. You are fucking scum. You would never eat dog food. You would never allow yourselves and your fucking friends to have to eat horse food and fucking donkey food and cat food. You hypocritical pieces of fucking shit. Fuck everything to do with you. Fuck your entire existence. You people are bastards. You're hypocrites and fucking genocidal bastards. I'm done with this all like we have nothing to do with this. You have everything to do with this. You can do something right now. Don't give me this, I have nothing to do with this. Yes, you fucking do. Yes, you do. You know this is happening. You're just trying to ignore it. And thinking it's going to go away. It's not going to go away. Look at the frustration that's coming out of these people's hearts. Look at the frustration. How much of this are they supposed to take before, they can have some food now? What is wrong with you? I'm not even talking about the bombs. I'm just like, there's no food. There's no water. And they want to talk about Western civilization. What the fuck is civilized about making people eat cat food? Are you and fucking bird seed and all this shit? Look at this. This is Israeli Western civilization. Their heritage minister, Jesus Christ. I mean, any minister saying this would be bad enough, but the one in charge of heritage, who's supposed to be, cultured and refined. Look what he says. The so-called month of Ramadan must be wiped out, and our fear of this month must also be wiped out. I mean, I'm not even Muslim and I'm offended at this shit, really. I mean, imagine if someone said, well, we have to wipe out Hanukkah or something like that. Imagine the outrage. They'd be quoting it today, tomorrow, in 10 years. You remember that time when they said they have to wipe out Hanukkah? This is the same guy who said they should drop a nuclear bomb on Gaza. And then it just keeps on going. This is the next day. This is the day after the massacre. This is the day after the massacre. So, I mean, just think about this. The fact that, they're starving. They're starving. And then when they're trying to run and get food, they get bombed while they're starving. I don't know what to say anymore. There's nothing, no words that can possibly suffice, because Zionists are really the scum of the earth. They are truly the worst people on the planet. They are so selfish. You know, they leave their countries and then go to steal someone else's house and then claim that they are oppressed at the same time. I've never seen anything like this. You know, usually people, when they invade, they just say, yeah, we're here to invade. You know, they don't try to mince words or beat around the bush or pussyfoot. They just say, yeah, we're here, we're bastards. No, the Zionists, they have two homes, they got two passports, or their parents got two passports, or their grandparents got two passports. Point is, they ain't from fucking Palestine, are they? And they take your home, and then they pretend that they are the victims because you want them out of your home. They really have some nerve. They really have some nerve. I mean, honestly, the nerve of these people. The nerve of these people. Look, I'm just saying what goes around comes around. There's going to be a day when they will be, you know, they will be in a similar in similar conditions, in a similar situation. I don't know how, and I don't know when. I have no clue. But what goes around comes around. You don't get to do this to people and then get away with that. You don't get to starve people like this. You know, there are children that every single day now are dying in the hospital because of starvation, not malnutrition. No, they're straight up starving to death. Starving to death is nothing. There's no other pre-existing condition. And even if there were, guess what? Fuck you. They're dying of starvation. You know, Zionists, they're really evil people. They don't understand reason. They don't understand diplomacy. They only understand force. It's not me who's saying this. I'm just showing you that if you look at history, they only understand force. You know, the Lebanese, they tried everything to get the bloody Israelis out of their country. Guess what? The only people who were able to do it were Hezbollah. And then because Hezbollah win, they say, oh, the terrorists are the terrorists. Hamas has tried everything. Hamas wrote a letter to Bush in 2006. They said, look, we're willing to maybe work out, you know, a two-state solution here. Maybe we'll accept Israel. They didn't say that in these words, but they were basically trying to find a diplomatic settlement, right? When you write a letter to the White House, you're working on diplomacy here. And the White House just ignore them. And then what happens the next year? Oh, look at these terrorists. We have to besiege them. So, you know, even if you put this Flower Massacre aside, they're still starving. Even on October 6th and October 5th and the year before that and the year before that and before that and before that, they're starving. People don't have enough food. People are in pain in Gaza. And you only have Zionists to blame. Some of them are Jewish, some of them Christian, some of them are Muslim. Or at least they call themselves Jewish, Christian, and Muslim. They like to look the part, right? I'm talking, of course, about the Netanyahus, about the Joe Bidens, and the Sheikh bin Zayeds and Mohammed bin Salman. You know, really just treacherous behavior, absolutely treacherous behavior. There's only so much you can you know, forgive, and we passed that threshold a long time ago. We passed this a long time ago. You know, I mean, I showed you an hour of videos of you know, people all across Gaza making bread out of animal feed. How degrading, how humiliating. The Israelis like this. They see this and they actually derive pleasure from this because they're so sick. They're truly sick people. You have to be sick. And this is not a pardon, because actually someone who is sick, who is suffering, it's not their fault. But the Zionists, they are conscious of what they're doing. They're sick in an evil way. Do you understand? They're malicious. They're cunning. They are evil in their behavior. Someone who's sick is sick. They can't help it. Zionists can absolutely help it. They choose to be this way. They choose to be assholes. They choose to be murdering, genocidal bastards. They choose this. Look at their behavior. 75 years of this, and even before Israel was created, they were doing the same crap, massacring Arab villages. You know, they're terrorists. If you care about, let me say it this way, because there's some people who you know think that they shouldn't care about Palestinians. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna put the argument to you another way. If you don't care about Palestinians, and you only care about America and you only care about Britain, you should still hate the Israelis, because the Israelis are terrorists. They tried to kill the US President Harry Truman. They tried to kill Winston Churchill. So if you don't have any compassion for Palestinians, you don't think they're human beings, at least give a shit about yourself. At least have some self-respect. You know, Israel is the only country that comes into the UK. It's not even a country, it's a colony that comes into the UK, comes into the US, and tries everything to censor people and prevent them from having free speech, to prevent them from criticizing them. What the fuck is that? Would you accept if Belarus came in and started saying, well, you should lose your job because you said something mean about Israel? You would laugh them out of the room. You'd laugh them out of the room. The Israelis shouldn't be laughed out of the room. They'd get kicked in their fucking behinds out of the room. You understand? 2 Israeli prime ministers could never visit the United Kingdom because they were wanted terrorists. Always remember that. They were wanted terrorists in the UK. Always remember that. They have been terrorists since their very beginning. It doesn't matter. They'll kill US citizens. They'll kill British citizens. They will attack US ships, USS Liberty, if that's what it takes for them to accomplish their goals. It's always Israel first. Israel first. That's the mentality. There's no such thing as allies. They shouldn't be given an inch. No quarter for Zionists. No quarter.